Hello and welcome to part 2 of Python 101. So we've learnt a little bit about setting up Python, we've looked at Anaconda, we've looked at kind of creating your first program with the hello world. What we're going to do now is going to look at something called variables. So in programming, a variable is a container. So in this container we store a data value. Within programming, the container isn't a physical container, it's a little bit of the computer's memory that we kind of corner off and we use to store a value. The stored value can then be referenced using the variable's name. So the programmer, that's you, can choose any name for a variable except the Python keywords. And Python has some keywords. Now, the keyword section of Python are things that you cannot name something because they've already got a use in Python. So things like false, assert, else, import, pass, non, break, except, in, raise, true, those kind of things like and as. So we can't use those for our variables. So data to be stored in a variable is assigned in a Python program. We call this a declaration statement in which we use the equals operator. So for example, if we wanted to store the numeric value of 8, we would give it a name first and then set it to 8. So let's have a look. So if we have a look at setting variables, so this is from the last video, I'm just going to delete some of these and we will start afresh. There we go. So if we want to set a variable, say we're doing a basic program where we take two numbers and we can add them together and we display that to the user. So the way we would do that is if we were going to do A equals 8, B equals 7. Run that, not much happens because we've not really asked anything to happen to it. But if we go result equals A plus B, again nothing much will happen. But if we ask to print result, it prints us the value of A and B added together. So what we've done here is we've said, I'm going to name you A and I want you to store 8. So I want you to remember 8 for me. I'm going to name you B and now I want you to remember the value of 7. Okay. Then I'm going to give you the name result and I want you to remember what A and B added together. So here we've not told it the numbers, we've just called the variables. Then here we've said, right, I need to know what that is. So the print window is really useful because at some point during your programming history or your programming journey, you will need to see what is happening inside your code. So the print function just allows us to see a little bit of a window inside what's happening. So it will be very useful. So at this point, all we're doing is basically looking at printing the result of A and B. Now, just as I said, we've not told it that A is 8 or B is 7. It already knows that from here. So we're going to print it and it's going to promote the value 15. Okay. Now, there are different types of ways we can declare variables. So I'm just going to delete some of these things. So we have so I'm just going to use, it's not that one. So we have a string. This is a data type. And this allows us to store sentences, or really it should be more than one character. And the reason for that is because we have a thing called a char, which allows us to actually store one single character. So, i.e. y. Then we have an int, so we have an integer which allows us to store a whole number. Then we have a decimal. Let's do double first. We have a double, and that allows us to store a number with a decimal point. And decimal is almost the same, so we're just going to call those the same, like that. Then we have something called a bool, which is true or false. So if we were going to use some of these, let's do it this way. Insert cell below. Control Z that, because we probably should have done it the other way. Cell below. There we go. So these won't run. Okay, these are what we call comments. So because we've put this little hashtag in front of it, we've told the program Anaconda, do not run these, do nothing with them. They are there just for the programmer to read, to understand what is happening in their code. And this again will be very, very useful for you. So if we were going to create a program that took a name and displayed that name back to the user, we would store it as a string. So at the moment we've just gone A and B is equal to 8 and 7, and we've used an integer. Okay, now in Python we don't necessarily have to tell it what it is that we're going to be doing. So we don't have, so like for in C#, for example, we have to declare a variable as a string, or we have to declare it as a char, we have to declare it as an int. In Python we don't have to do that. We can just literally name it. So for example here, I'm going to call name, and I'm going to set it to Jenny, like that. Okay, age, we need an integer, and I'm going to set that to, I don't know, 25. Okay, then let's go for female, and we'll do T, so that's a bool because we've gone true. Let's do it as a, like that. Now let's do it like that. Okay, and then if we wanted to print these, we would print name, then we want a space, plus age, space, plus female. And if we run that, we can't have the spaces, it makes sense. So we can only concatenate strings, right, makes sense. There we go. So we'll do it like this. So we'll do Jenny is a name, and then we'll do another print underneath. Now programmers get super, super lazy, and they just like to copy and paste things and make things super easy for themselves. So that's where this comes in. Then we're going to do age. And then we are going to do female, and we'll run those. Now, they have run everything. Now, I just want to go back a second and just show you something. So I'm going to do this down here. So I'm going to put print name plus age plus female. And the reason I want to do it like this is because I just want to show you something. Have you noticed here how it says it can only concatenate? So concatenate is a really, really posh word for saying that put them together. So that's what this little plus thing does. But it automatically recognises that age is an int and it's not a string. So this is what I mean by we don't have to necessarily say anything. So like for example in C# you would put string name equals Jenny, like that, and it'll probably have a thingy around it, and you'd probably need one of them. And that would be how you declare it in C#. But in Python you don't have to. And that's why it's so easy to do it. It automatically knows that this is an integer, automatically knows that this is a string, and I'm pretty sure it'll automatically know that this is a char. Let's work out what we can do for a char. Let's just call it random. It's probably not the best thing to use. Random, like that, and we'll set it to T, like that. And if we ask it to print random with my things around it, click run, it'll print it. And then if I just remove here and here and put random and run that, it accepted that. And that the reason for that is because they are both the same type. So they both are the same type of data. So they're both like letters, or they're both like sentences. if I try to concatenate age and name, this is where we start getting the errors of being two different data types. So the other thing I want to show you about variables is if I just remove some of this stuff, we'll keep this. So if I've got here, and I probably should have kept that like that. I'm going to remove this one and this one, and I'm going to remove this one and this one, and I'm just going to keep these two here. So now if I say that Jenny is now called, I don't know, Jennifer, like that, and I ask it to run print name, it will say Jennifer, even if I do it here. So if I do it here and go name equals Jennifer and run it here, it will change it to Jennifer. And that is because it takes the last assigned name to it. So if we had two people and we had one called Jenny and one called Jennifer, we would have to say name 1, name 2. And then we would have to do the same here. So this way we could do it this way and go copy, paste, name 2, run it, Jenny, Jennifer. And the reason for that is because even though we can initialize multiple variables, if they are named the same, then they overrun each other, they cancel each other out, and it becomes the last named variable. So for example here, when we just had name, Jennifer was displayed, and that's because it is the last named variable. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need to know about variables. Nope, I think we're good with that. So that is all about variables. So that is video 2, and I will see you in the third video where we look at obtaining user input.